There are moments in history when one individual refuses to accept the way the world works. And instead of adapting, they bend reality itself, and Travis Kalanick was one of those rare disruptors who didn't just challenge the system, he shattered it completely, emerging from a mindset fueled by relentless ambition, defiance, and an almost obsessive hunger to win, a mindset that would eventually give birth to one of the most transformative companies of the modern era. But before the billions, the headlines, and the controversy, there was a young entrepreneur who faced failure head-on, building his early ventures like Scour, a peer-to-peer file-sharing company that ultimately collapsed under legal pressure. A crushing blow that would have stopped most people, yet for Kalanick it became fuel, not defeat, teaching him a brutal lesson about resilience in the unforgiving world of startups. And from those ashes he built Red Swoosh, a content delivery network that he later sold for millions, marking his first major victory and proving that persistence, even after devastating loss, could lead to extraordinary outcomes. But destiny had something far bigger waiting. And that moment came when he co-founded Uber, a company that didn't just create a new service but fundamentally changed how humans interact with transportation, turning smartphones into powerful tools that could summon a ride within seconds, disrupting the centuries-old taxi industry and challenging regulations across cities worldwide. And as Uber grew at an explosive pace, so did Kalanick's reputation as a fearless, aggressive leader who refused to take no for an answer, expanding into market after market with a mindset that rules were obstacles meant to be overcome, rather than followed, earning both admiration and criticism in equal measure, because while some saw him as a visionary genius who was pushing humanity forward, others viewed his tactics as reckless and controversial, and yet this tension became part of the legend, the story of a man who was willing to risk everything to win, who believed that greatness demanded bold moves, not cautious steps, and under his leadership, Uber became a global powerhouse, redefining convenience and reshaping urban life, creating opportunities for millions of drivers while also sparking debates about labor rights, corporate ethics, and the true cost of disruption. And just when it seemed like Kalanick was unstoppable, the cracks began to appear as internal cultural issues, public scandals, and mounting pressure from investors created a storm that even his relentless drive couldn't outrun, leading to his dramatic resignation as CEO in 2017, a moment that shocked the business world and marked the fall of one of Silicon Valley's most powerful figures. But if there's one thing that defines Travis Kalanick, it's that he doesn't stay down because failure, no matter how public or painful, is never the end for those who are wired to rebuild. And in the aftermath of Uber, while many expected him to fade into the background, he quietly began crafting his next chapter, focusing on new ventures like Cloud Kitchens, a company aimed at revolutionizing the food delivery ecosystem by optimizing kitchens for the digital age, proving once again that his ability to spot massive opportunities remained intact. And this phase of his journey reflects a deeper evolution, a shift from the loud, aggressive disruptor to a more strategic, calculated entrepreneur who has learned from both triumph and controversy, showing that reinvention is not just possible, but necessary for long-term success. And when you look at his story as a whole, it becomes clear that Travis Kalanick is not just a businessman, he is a symbol of what happens when ambition meets opportunity at full force, when someone refuses to accept limitations and instead creates new realities, even if it comes at a cost, because true innovation is rarely clean or comfortable. It is messy, risky, and often polarizing, but it is also what drives humanity forward. And whether you admire him or criticize him, there is no denying the impact he has had on the world, the industries he disrupted, and the lessons his journey offers, lessons about resilience, about the price of ambition, about the importance of learning from failure, and about the power of reinvention, because in the end, the story of Travis Kalanick is not just about Uber or billion-dollar valuations. It is about the relentless pursuit of vision, the courage to take risks when others hesitate, and the unbreakable belief that even after falling from the top, you can rise again, stronger, smarter, and ready to build something even greater. And as the dust settled from the chaos that surrounded his exit from Uber, Many believed the story of Travis Kalanick had reached its final chapter, but what they underestimated was the mindset of a builder who thrives not in comfort, but in reconstruction. In the quiet moments after a storm where most people retreat but a rare few begin again, and Kalanick belonged to that rare category, stepping away from the spotlight not as a defeated figure, but as someone recalibrating, analyzing every decision, every mistake, every victory, understanding that true power lies not just in creating something massive, but in learning how to evolve when everything you built is taken away or reshaped without you. And during this period of reflection, he didn't rush back into headlines or chase immediate validation. Instead, he moved strategically, almost silently, acquiring land, investing in infrastructure, and laying the foundation for what would become cloud kitchens, a concept that on the surface seemed simple but carried the same disruptive DNA that once powered Uber, because if Uber redefined how people move, cloud kitchens aim to redefine how food reaches them, eliminating the need for expensive dine-in spaces and focusing entirely on delivery efficiency, anticipating a future where convenience would dominate consumer behavior even more aggressively. And this vision proved to be remarkably timed as the world shifted toward digital dependency, especially during global changes that forced people indoors, accelerating the demand for delivery-based services. And once again, Kalanick found himself at the center of a transformation, but this time with a quieter approach, less public confrontation, more calculated expansion, showing a version of himself that had matured through experience, yet still carried that same relentless drive to dominate emerging markets. And while critics continued to question his past leadership style and the controversies that once defined his public image, supporters saw something deeper, a pattern that exists in many of history's most impactful innovators, where greatness is often accompanied by turbulence, where the line between visionary and controversial is razor-thin, and where the journey to reshaping industries is rarely smooth or universally accepted. And what makes Kalanick's story so compelling is not just the rise or the fall, but the refusal to remain static, the understanding that identity is not tied to one company, one success, or even one failure, but to the ability to continuously build, adapt, and push forward regardless of circumstances. And in a world where many chase quick wins and instant recognition, his journey stands as a powerful reminder that true impact is a long game, filled with unpredictable turns, harsh lessons, and moments that test not just your strategy, but your character. And as Cloud Kitchens continues to expand across different regions, reshaping how restaurants operate behind the scenes, it represents more than just another business venture. It symbolizes a second act, a quieter but equally ambitious mission that proves reinvention is not about starting over, but about starting smarter. And for anyone watching from the outside, whether you are an aspiring entrepreneur, a student, or someone standing at the edge of your own uncertain path, there is something undeniably powerful in the story of Travis Kalanick, because it shows that failure does not erase your potential, that criticism does not define your future, and that even after reaching the highest peaks and experiencing the steepest, you can still find a way to rebuild, to reimagine, and to rise again, not as the same person you once were, but as someone sharper, wiser, and far more dangerous in your ability to turn vision into reality. He continued to operate with a mindset that looked far beyond immediate gains, focusing instead on long-term systems, infrastructure, and the hidden layers of industries that most people never even notice. And this is where his genius becomes more visible, because while the world often celebrates flashy apps and visible innovation, Kalanick began targeting the invisible backbone of modern convenience. The logistics, the supply chains, the operational efficiency that quietly determines which companies dominate and which fade away. And through Cloud Kitchens, he wasn't just building kitchens. He was constructing an entirely new ecosystem where restaurants could exist without traditional limitations, where data would drive decisions, where locations were optimized purely for delivery speed, and where the future of food wasn't about dining experiences but about frictionless access. And this shift reflects a deeper understanding of where the world is heading, a world where time becomes the most valuable currency and convenience becomes the ultimate product. And yet, Behind all of this strategy lies a personal evolution that often goes unnoticed. Because the same man who once thrived on confrontation and aggressive expansion now operates with a level of patience and subtlety. That suggests he has learned one of the hardest lessons in business: that power is not always loud, and that sometimes the most impactful moves are made quietly,